My sister had a really bad experience and she found a clinic on Instagram that had 500,000 followers and she ended up getting botched under eye filler. There's a big issue around safety in the industry. It's very hard to say who's actually like a good practitioner or a good injector. These are medical treatments at the end of the day, and you do want to make sure that you're going to the right places. And customer journey today, it is just end to end so bad, like so broken, you know, from like the very beginning all the way through to the end. I mean, today, like if you're not going on Marble to book, let's say, right? You have like no idea like what treatment to get, like, and let's say you are interested and you see something on TikTok that you know, salmon sperm facial, say like salmon sperm facial really fast, really hard. It's just really hard to, you know, then okay, let's say you want to get that, where do you go? Okay, maybe you get like a recommendation from a friend, you don't know if that clinic's actually good, you go in, you have no idea what anything costs. There's no pricing transparency. You go in, like it's a super scary experience. After you're done with the treatment, like most of the clinics like totally disengage, like there's no aftercare. The world that we're trying to create with Marble is one where medical aesthetics is like safe, transparent, and accessible.
What role do you see clinics playing in this vision?
They play a huge role, right? They are the ones who are offering the treatments. My name is Sharon and I'm the founder at Marble. What is your name?
My name is Uma. Nice
and
to
you
meet
are?
I am the founder associate here at Marble.
Yes, you are.
What is Marble for anyone who doesn't know?
Marble is a marketplace for medical aesthetics. So essentially, consumers can come on Marble and they can discover treatments in clinics and they can inquire. They can basically submit booking requests through Marble.
We've been building Marble for a while and actually it wasn't the first thing that we built. So what was our reason for then deciding to specifically build a marketplace?
Yeah. So the main problem that we wanted to solve is just, you know, I think there's a big issue around safety in the industry. Why isn't there something for aesthetics? You know, just in the same way that you have like a treat well for beauty, why shouldn't there be something for aesthetics? Just to allow people to, you know, find the right clinics and find the right treatments for themselves.
So how does Marble help someone find a good place or bad place?
So first of all, I think like figuring out, just as the consumer, like figuring out what is a good clinic is honestly basically impossible. You know, there is no source of truth. There's no like standard like licenses, like educational path, you know, like consistent like governing bodies that supervise all of these clinics or all of these practitioners. So it's literally almost impossible for consumers to figure out like where to go. And what we did, we wanted to basically have a framework that allows us to assess, you know, like triangulate basically, which of these clinics we think are safe and, you know, what are the safest and highest quality clinics. And so we looked at like a number of factors basically. Are they medically led? Like, is there actually like a plastic surgeon or a doctor on the team, you know, like that could, you know, for example, like deal with complications? Is there a prescriber on the team? You know, do they have good, you know, patient reviews? Like, do they have a Google review rating of 4.5 and above? So we looked at more than one factor to try to basically build up a picture of these clinics. And then what we did is we basically did this for 30,000 clinics all over the UK and then filtered it down to the best, like 2,700 clinics that we feel are, you know, most deserving of receiving these, you know, patients that want to get these treatments. So that's what we did. And that was really the intent.
Marble, with the whole idea of medically led, we include doctors, dentists, prescribing nurses only. What are the reasons that we chose those categories of medical professionals as the practitioners we allow on Marble?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I would say that, you know, like no framework is perfect. And we are like continuously refining our framework with our industry advisors. I think this was sort of our starting point where we wanted to say, okay, like it's very hard to say who's actually like a good practitioner or a good injector, right? But like, what are the things that we could look at to say, this person, you know, probably knows what they're doing. Like this person probably knows how to deal with complications. I think one of the things that we can look at is, are they actually medically trained, right? Versus, they've had like a 2-day training over the weekend and are now injecting people. I mean, that is really like why this is like one of our criteria. But again, like it is just so hard. It's so difficult to assess, who's actually a good practitioner versus who's not. And this is just, really like our best effort approach in the absence of like no one else telling us like who's actually, what are the good clinics, what are the good practitioners. We are looking at the set of criteria and saying, okay, based on these criteria, we think that these are most likely to be like the best clinics.
On the topic of like complications, I think something that we also spoke about on Friday with one of our doctor partners was the importance of facial anatomy. How sometimes injectors, if they don't know enough about facial anatomy when injecting, that can actually mean that they inject the wrong place or not deep enough, or sometimes too deep kind of thing. So it's like that is one of the reasons as well, right? More about like there's many types of complications. Some can be really bad, in which case you need medical help, which is why you need a medical practitioner. But some are just to do with facial anatomy.
Definitely. I mean, like I had like my own bad experiences with medical aesthetics. I don't know if you want to share, but you've had some bad experiences, right? And these are medical treatments at the end of the day, and you do want to make sure that you're going to the right places. And that's what we wanted to do for consumers, but also for clinics, because, from speaking to so many clinics in the industry, if you know how to have like a good Instagram presence, you can get the attention of consumers and you can get clients. But that doesn't necessarily mean, that you're also like a safe and reputable clinic. It might, but it also like might not, right? And what we wanted to do in a sense is sort of like level the playing field and look at objective criteria of whether a clinic is actually good, so that consumers can make good choices, so that they can come on a platform where, clinics are objectively evaluated and there is no pay to play. And, they can kind of, we wanted to build trust ultimately with the consumer, but that's also a good thing for the clinics, because the clinics that are listed on MARBL, we think are the most deserving of receiving all of these inquiries, whether they have figured out how to hack the marketing game or not. We wanted to allow all of these clinics to just focus on what they're best at, which is patient care, rather than trying to become Instagram influencers.
Yeah, I think on the topic of my personal stories, I think I've been a silly young girl for quite a while now, gone to like many wrong clinics probably. Also, I think like that's a point of like the clientele are quite a vulnerable type of people sometimes. And what I mean by that is not just, okay, they might be looking to deal with an insecurity, but also from a health perspective, like something can go wrong with your health because of these kind of things. So it is important.
With medical aesthetics, I think that a lot of people, wrongly think that this industry is just Botox and filler, when really there's so many treatments, like treating so many different concerns that have so many different benefits. And like most consumers don't really know like what they mean, like what they are. Us working in the industry, we don't even know what half of them, like there's so many new innovations coming out all the time that's just really hard to stay on top of. And that's another element that we wanted to help with, having a single source of truth where you can just learn more about these treatments and learn what is HIFU, like what is polynucleotides, like what are these things, just so you have, rather than just being like TikTok educated, you can go to a place where you can inform yourself, and then you can decide if you want to inquire with a clinic. And then if you're a first-time patient, you go in for that consultation. Like just creating basically the right customer journey for people was really important in like how we designed the whole MARBL experience, right? Because I think when I look at the customer journey today, it is just end to end so bad, like so broken, from like the very beginning all the way through to the end. Today, like if you're not going on MARBL to book, let's say, right? You have like no idea like what treatment to get. You have no like, and let's say you are interested and you see something on TikTok that you're, salmon sperm facial. Say like salmon sperm facial really fast, really hard. It's just really hard to, then, okay, let's say you want to get that. Where do you go? Okay, maybe you get like a recommendation from a friend. You don't know if that clinic's actually good. You go in, you have no idea what anything costs. There's no pricing transparency. You go in, like it's a super scary experience. After you're done with the treatment, like most of the clinics like totally disengage. Like there's no aftercare. Like it's just end to end, like a horrific like customer journey. I mean, that's what we want to change, right? With Marble is like just completely redesign the experience in the way that I think the consumer deserves. And I think if we do that, the industry can be many times as big as it is today.
Can you tell me the specific moment you really felt this industry like needs to change?
Oh my God, so many moments. Like again and again, you know? I think starting with, I think the first time I was like, we need to build something in this industry is my sister had a really bad experience. Like she was 25 and she wanted to get some filler and she found a clinic on Instagram, right? That had 500,000 followers, and she ended up getting botched under eye filler that couldn't be dissolved. And that was like a really like traumatic almost experience for her. And that wouldn't have happened if she had better options to figure out, you know, which clinic to go to. You know, what we're doing with the marketplace is we want to make it more transparent for everyone, right? And like, I think unfortunately, with the way that the industry operates, you know, not everybody wants that transparency, because there's always a status quo and there's people that benefit from the current status quo, right? So I think even with, you know, some of the like feedback that I've seen, like since we started this and since we launched, it's actually just making kind of validating more for me that we actually need this. Like we need, like for consumers, but also for clinics, like we need a place that consumers can go and they can, you know, they can learn about treatments, they can see how much treatments cost. Like it is such a basic thing, but there is just no price transparency in this industry. And then, you know, being able to find clinics that are actually safe. Like this is just the basics. This is just table stakes. And then on the clinic side, you know, like we actually wanted to help all of the clinics that we feel are like, you know, fantastic clinics that are kind of overshadowed by people who, you know, have done 2-day trainings and have 50,000 Instagram followers. Like those are the clinics that we wanted to help. Like this is who we wanted to level the playing field for, because they didn't set out to be social media influencers. Like they want to focus on patient care. And so what we're offering to them is let us do like the legwork of basically like finding you quality patients. You know, let us like do the marketing, like let us, you know, like make you very findable, like do all of the stuff that you normally would have to like hire an SEO agency, a marketing agency, a website designer, you know, like a social media person for. Let us do all of this. And then, you know, our business model, like we don't take any payments for any of this until we actually bring new clients. But this is like really how we wanted to help like both the consumers and the clinics to make medical aesthetics really better for everyone.
What are some of the biggest challenges you think clinics currently face in this industry operating today?
I think clinics, I mean, so many, right? Like I like hugely respect like the work that clinic owners do. I think ultimately with the market, it's almost entirely single location clinics, which means you're basically a small business owner. And that is like hard work, and you have to manage so many things. So, you know, I think if we can help with, you know, one problem to start, which is helping bring them quality clients in a market that has become very saturated, you know, like very competitive, like this is basically like where we want to help to start.
How does Marble do that?
What do we do for clinics? I mean, one, you know, we only list clinics on the marketplace that have basically passed these objective evaluation criteria. So the first thing is, if you're listed on Marble, you know, the idea is we're building that trust with the consumer. They know that there is no pay to play. And so we want to highlight your clinic like from the get-go as one of the best clinics in the UK. And then aside from that, you know, creating these pages that are extremely findable from Google search. Also now AI search, which is becoming a new thing. People searching on ChatGPT, like find me someone great for Botox. And then we help with social media content creation, We have a podcast, so we host people on our podcast to share their perspectives, because ultimately they are the experts, right? So we have the podcast that amplifies like their voices. So everything to do with really, helping build their brand and helping do the marketing for them and bringing them clients, where we don't take any single fee until we actually bring clients to them, is really the model of how we want to help clinics. When I talk to great practitioners, they say like the only way, like, if you're practicing it's just like complications can happen to anyone, right? Like always, like these are medical treatments, but you want to make sure that you're going to the people that can actually handle the complications, right? And I think a lot of people are getting trained on, doing the treatment, like let's say injecting, but they're not getting trained on handling the complication. And so, what we wanted to do with the clinics that we list on the marketplace is we wanted to make sure that looking at all of these different criteria, like these aren't people that have done like a 2-day training, like these are people who have medical degrees, like these are clinics who have prescribers on the team, like these are clinics who, consistently get good patient reviews, because like in a world where there is no perfect one indicator, we looked at many of them, like we have this framework to basically triangulate like who we think are most likely to be the best clinics, the ones that are like most deserving to, be treating all of these patients, be getting all of the demand. So that was the idea.
What was the reason for us putting these clinics on the marketplace?
The reason for us to put these clinics on the marketplace is to highlight the best clinics that are out there. And that needed to be objective, because we wanted to, we want to do right by the consumer in terms of, show them like these are the safest clinics. Like if you want to get these treatments, like these are the best ones to go to. And then from the clinic perspective, we felt that there's so many amazing clinics that, are overshadowed by people who are better on Instagram, who have done a 2-day training. And we wanted to level that playing field. And we think that, your follower count is not necessarily an indication of how good your clinic is. So, we wanted to do right by both sides of the market.
What is the world that you're trying to create with MARBL?
The world that we're trying to create with MARBL is one where medical aesthetics is like safe, transparent, and accessible. And that ultimately makes it better for, all participants in the industry. It makes it better for the consumer because, they experience like a completely different customer journey, like one where, they can trust that they're in safe hands, like one where they know like how much they're going to pay for treatments. And then on the clinic side, like we believe that you don't need to be like an Instagram influencer in order to build a great clinic. We want to give them the time back to actually focus on patient care. So that's, I think when I think into the future, like what we want to create is, basically like we want to fix what's basically broken in the industry. And I think if you make it safe and accessible and transparent, I actually think that the industry can be 4 times as big. What's good for the consumer is ultimately also good for the suppliers, in this industry, the clinics. And so that's what we're looking to build. And
what role do you see clinics playing in this vision?
I mean, clinics, they play a huge role, right? They are the ones who are offering the treatments. So it's, they almost couldn't be playing like a bigger role. And I think we want to work with clinics and we want to help them. I think if you look at the industry, most of these clinics are basically single location clinics. You're basically running a small business. Like that is super hard work. And there's a lot of like moving pieces and problems that you're solving like every single day. And what we feel that we want to help with is basically just, in an industry that's become very competitive, like we can help with bringing you quality clients. We're not a discount platform. We're not like, that's not the experience that we're looking to create. Like we know that there's a huge amount of demand like out there. And even since launching MARBL, like we've seen it. We've gotten so many more inquiries, right, for booking requests than we anticipated, because like 30% of the general population is considering getting these treatments. So if you make that easier, there's a lot of demand that's just out there. And we want to bring that demand to the right clinics. you.